Alrighty, I put the old German machine away, the old Pfaff, the one that gave me a lot of crap. Haven't used, well, I used about 4 weeks ago, maybe 6 weeks ago to try the Darling foot. I hadn't used it for a few weeks prior to that. I probably haven't used it for, quite honestly, I've probably only used it just for the Darling foot for 1 day and haven't used it for 3 or 4 months, aside from that 1 day. Yeah, it's one of these things, it doesn't want to deal with stretch material and blooming stuck on zigzag and all this business, and you just think, the Husky's better, so I'll keep using that. Anyway, the cleanup continues on. Oh man, this flaming light's crap. Let's see what I can do here. Long and short of it is I've cleared a lot of stuff off the floor and I've changed this table. Now that was the railing there that it used to sit up on. It's too bloody high, and so I've put it down lower using the frame of that chipboard one that was sitting out on the front lawn. So it's now fairly low. It's probably slightly less than waist height, I suppose. You see the bottom of my shirt there. And needless to say, I've got there's a garbage bag there full of blooming fabric and several other full bags of fabric, as well as the ubiquitous rolls and whatnot. Yeah, so I'm sort of clearing the floor right out, and I might have even more cleared before too long. I've just got to work out where all these bags of fabric are going to live for the longer term, and that might be a bit of a question. I don't really want to stick it on the floor because just mice issues. She's bringing in shit. It's 2 or 3 a day she's going through now. Brought in one last night. Coming again, I don't know if it was the same mouse or not. She had another one on the front lawn, probably about, I don't know, 11 o'clock today or something. Every day it's at least 2, if not 3, in a whole 24-hour cycle. Often enough when I'll be brought into my bedroom in the middle of the night. Yeah, that's just the way it is. And with all that, there's a gap up against the wall here, like there's your window, you've got the fridge below your window here. Up against that wall, right in that corner, I only just realised, and it's been like it for years, but you never look down there, but it's, there's a big gap. There's no bloody skirting board, and it's sort of a bit, rough, very rough edge on the last plank, and I'm pretty certain they've been walking in and out of there without a problem, with bloody impunity. And, I did see one in the kitchen here grab a cat's biscuits, and yeah, there was a bit of a calamity later on, because I believe Putty Cat did actually see a mouse. I was sitting in there in front of the sewing machine, and I heard this almighty fucking scurry and shit falling down, and and I thought, what the frickin' hell's this? I don't know what the hell it was. Like, to be honest, I'll be quite honest, the first thing I done was grab the axe under my bed, thinking there was going to be some real action in a minute, And I come out and a few things had been knocked over right around where a cat bowl is. And long and short of it is, I think Mouse got away by the skin of his teeth, really, because I think she actually caught a mouse in the act of taking the biscuits out of her bowl, and that was why all hell broke loose. That's the only thing I could make of that incident. There was no other cat, there was nothing, and it was right where a food bowl was. The things had been knocked all over. So anyway, that's That's kind of funny. There she is over there. Yeah, I come out here, I just went through, I think I threw out a couple of tuna tins or something, actually it's salmon tins, and she was right here this morning with another one, and the mouse is sitting up on there, and she's laying just on the edge of the bricks there and all that. Just she had that look about her, and you can always tell because you look down, the tail's tail's real low and swooping from side to side. And I cut back the verbena a little bit because it was all climbing up. I've got it sitting on the kitchen table, it's dried out basically, but I've still got to trim all this. But there's a bloody mouse that'll be underneath this verbena, and it'll walk into all my firewood in the back here, which I am hoping to slowly get through. Oh yeah, all them there, there's quite a few, 1, 2, 3, there's at least 5 rolls there. That's what they gave me at the fabric place when I bought that 244 metres, which, in case you want to know, I think a yard is 0.92 of a metre or something like that. So, yeah, it's probably about 250 yards I got in that time there. But in that, they unwrapped a lot of it to measure it, and then folded it up and put it in those bags you just saw then, the white bags. And, you know, so there's some fairly reasonable lengths in there. But they took it off of those rolls, and then they said, oh, we're not going to use the rolls. I think they throw them in like recycling or cardboard recycling something. Do you want them? And I said yes, so I might actually have to go and put some of it back on those rolls. In a way, it's a little bit of a waste of time, and I don't really want to do it, but they do store quite well when they're perfectly upright. And turns out there's a guy at work who actually used to work for the competitor at the fabric store, the one I mentioned that once before is a bit of a frickin' hard case and they're not very good with customers. He used to work for that one years back, like we go back like 25 years ago, when he'd only just got out of high school. And yeah, he said they used to have like bits of dowel. I mean, they probably had like a bit of, you know, steel or whatever, and this dowel was screwed in, but the dowel was basically, maybe they had routed bits or something into a larger piece of wood, but the dowel was sort of pointing up out of the floor. And they'd have all these decent bits of dowel, like at least 1 inch, maybe 1 1/4 inch bits of dowel, all pointing upwards, stacks of them out of the floor. And that's what they put all the rolls of fabric on, and they'd all just stand upright. And he said that's how it was out the back. And then he said you'd go and get off a certain amount of metres and re-roll it onto, you know, he said you get off like 10 metres, you know, which is probably like 10.5 yards, and or 11 yards, I think it is, and roll it onto a cardboard roll and then take it out into the main customer area. But he said you'd have a whopping big roll out the back, sort of thing. So anyway, what else was I going to talk about? Yeah, we've had a bit of rain. The grass is sort of green, but the rain hasn't been quite as good as you might have hoped. I've still got to get this shit off the front lawn. Besides from that, we're pretty good. As you can see, that's where the chipboard table used to be. Just trying to think, there's something else I was going to say. Damn, can't remember. Anyway, sort of good to have everything sort of, you know, realigned and reworked out. Oh yeah, yes. Yeah, tried out the Thai fisherman's pants. Oh, they definitely need belt loops. There is no question about that. I found you can sort of undo it and, you know, have a piss and then sort of manage to re-wrap everything back and flick it over where the strap holds. But the reality is you know, belt loops would do them a world of good. And I also thought of maybe having, like, instead of just having straight strap, having like, I don't know, say like 10 inches of elastic, and then go back to straight strap and belt loops. So you've got sort of the ability to have elastic, but then also tie it off at a certain point. So sort of the best of both worlds, where you've got, instead of just a strap being a set thing, you've got strap on elastic, so you can sort of tie it tight, but then it's sort of elastic sprung still. And then if you want the elastic to be tighter, all you do is you tie your straps tighter, because they've got elastic, you know, on either end. In fact, you'd have just one strip of elastic 10 inches long, that'd be sewn in at the centre above your butt crack or whatever, and then you'd have one strap going one way, one strap going the other way, and your belt loops sort of, you know, from probably the side of your hips onwards or something like that. There's another glorious thing I come to realise, and bloody hell, what glorious fabric it is, and God blimey. Doesn't breathe very well. Okay. I come back after sweating away for the day with the shirt, and I could smell blooming that stale petrol smell, and I think I got a little bit of a whiff of it too with the pants. But I noticed something different with the pants that I didn't notice with the shirt, with that blasted cheap fabric. I'm glad these are experimental, because you wouldn't want to be selling shit like this. Static build-up. It's all fine at work. Not much of a big deal, you know, I'm on the forklift a lot, I don't walk around that much. Well, I get off work, drive, going home, you know, and there's a certain point that I go to a certain supermarket and all that, and I start walking around this place, this supermarket. So I get out of my car, I'm walking out of the car park, boom, 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 okay, start walking down the aisle, and as I'm starting to walk along the front of the aisles to get to the aisle where all the discount stuff, and I started realising all the hairs on my legs going all funny. The pants are building up static as I was walking. Goddamn cheap fabric, I tell you what. You know, the other polyester shirts I've had, the blue ones, the heavier duty one, they wouldn't do that. I've got another one that I looked at and thought, oh, it's too weak a weave when I had that big buy up, and then lo and behold, it's basically, I should get the light because I can show you this actually. It's the same as the polyester I've made a few shirts out of, the blue polyester, the thicker stuff that looks like cotton drill. That's it there, almost royal blue. Now that's sort of, these are both sitting on the same chair, so that's that height. You go across to this one, which is still another, probably a foot wider. Yeah, it'd be a foot wider. But it's basically the same stuff, but instead of being so royal blue, it's like a little bit more of a greenish, it's still blue, but instead of being a deeper blue, it's like a lighter blue, and it almost has like a, in some lights it looks sort of a little bit sort of, you know, like there's a bit of green in it. But I got that as well when I got that knitting machine, so that stuff's good. That doesn't give me any crap. I haven't made any pants out of it, but, and that'd probably be the ultimate test, making some pants out of it. But this other stuff, the Dr. Evil shirt stuff, holy smoke, I couldn't believe it, you know. Walking along, had them walking along, and just felt, oh, what's going on here? And I realised, I looked down, there was static build-up. I thought, bloody hell, you know. But this is what you get when you get cheap fabrics. You get a couple of hits, but like 80% or more misses. You know, and that's just what it is. But I got a lot of stuff, heaps of stuff, really super fine, like almost like bed sheet stuff, but it's only like about 1/3 the thickness. It's almost see-through. That's like a yellow. I've got stacks of stuff in all these bags, but anyway, I don't think you really desperately want to go looking at all of it. There's one here. I'll show you this other one. It does look good. It's like suit pants material. And if we get a light on it, you should be able to see the pattern on it. Yeah, we might be a little bit, oh, you can sort of see there. Might be a little bit too low light or too low resolution. Yeah, now you can see the lines. There you can see the lines. It's got all these little sort of lines in it where the pattern sort of changes. With my other phone, of course, you'd see it brilliantly under daylight as well. You might even see it alright with this one under daylight. But the daylight's fading outside anyway. But yeah, there's some that are sort of alright, but you get a lot of sort of questionable ones. But it doesn't really matter at the end of the day, you know, it's all just experimental crap. So yeah, but I'm working on another shirt. There's a beige material that I bought earlier on, and I got another roll of the exact same stuff when I originally went in and got those other ones along with the stretch one. And you know, this is the thing, you start cutting it out, and this is it here. Start cutting it out, and then you put your lips up to it and you go to suck through it, and then you realise, oh no, this ain't going to breathe too well because I can't suck through it. So this is another not so breathable one, but I'm working this together. As you can tell, I'm doing a fairly fine detailed little job of the stitches and whatnot, and so it looks quite alright actually. But that's a shirt design that's, the sleeves are very different. It's a different method of making the sleeves. It takes a lot of the bullshit out of it all, and the tightness. That jumper I had, I modified that too, put two big triangles under the sleeves. Bada bing, I'm wearing it to work almost every day. That's the one where there's like a blooming 5 inches or whatever it is difference between one shoulder and the other because of the neck. The neck's placed in the wrong spot. Having said that, once I put those big triangles under the armpits, it opened it up so much that I wear that to work now every day. There's no blooming, you know, stitches breaking or any of that bullshit. You know, I'm handling stuff up here and this and that and forklift steering wheels and everything. It's fine. It's great, you know. And I'll be completely honest, yesterday I pretty much had it on 90% of the day because it sort of kept raining and shit. So yeah, it's sort of that's ended up becoming a real winner when it was originally a dud. But this is what happens: you modify things, you fix them up, and then bang, you get the show back on the road again, and they become wearable. And if you ever wonder why I wear these things to work, why I don't just walk around the house, because you're not doing anything in the house. You sit down, you walk around. You're not doing the same stuff that I am at work where I've got to scrape things. So I've got to scrape in my arms and I'm, you know, moving my arms back and forwards. I'm turning forklift steering wheels. I'm, you know, lifting things up higher than head height and all this sort of movement and, you know, not just movement of the fabric getting rubbed, but the stitches getting, you know, stressed to deal in the real world, and you sweat, you know, on the fabric and stuff like that. And it's sort of, you know, I'll tell you, the other day I was, when I had the Thai fisherman's pants on, I was on my knees quite a lot that day. And, you know, it picked up quite a lot of dirt and shit. But, you know, the knees stayed good. They didn't sort of stuff up or anything like that. And you sort of get a feeling for how the legs are done as you know, kneel down, do whatever, get up, walk away, come back, kneel down again. You know, you see if it's all moving correctly. And if I was just to wear around here, be shit house, because I don't really expend any great amount of energy very often inside the house, you know, whereas, you know, and you're really not going to run it through the riggers, whereas at work I know things will get run through the riggers because I, you know, do a whole heap of things where the stitches are going to be, you know, pulled and moved around and sort of given a decent amount of test versus just sort of, you know, just sort of sitting in a fucking chair watching, you know, some crap on YouTube or just putting stuff through a sewing machine or just sitting there eating food or whatever, you know. So anyway, that's what's going on. I did make an experimental pair of boxer shorts, which I haven't showed you guys, but I sort of, it's another pair. It's a different altogether from the white pair. But I'm going to play around with that sort of gear a bit more in future. The pair I've got's made out of some really rubbishy fabric that's actually about 15 years old. And I don't really think you want to see me dance around in those, but all the same, it was to test a principle, and it worked far better than I ever expected this design principle to work. But I was sort of doing it in a bit of a rush because I had to go to work the next day and all this sort of stuff. So I want to have and then I was cutting it on a table full of crap, and I really didn't cut things very square and very straight. So I'll probably chuck that pair out, maybe. Probably should, really. Might steal the elastic out of it and then throw it out. You know, and then sort of go ahead and try the same design principle once again, but it's a very different principle to the way they're usually made. But having said that, I was shocked at how well they did actually perform with the first set that I'd done a rush job of and didn't really do to how I wanted them to be done because I was in a bit of a rush. But yeah, experiments continue.